All right, now it's saying we are live on the air. I'm just going to wait until we're seen on the screen here.
There we go.
Okay. Hey guys, what's up? This is Tree from treeoflogic.com. I have two awesome gentlemen here with me. Of course, y'all know my Zion King Halsey
That's
is
me.
here. And then we got Dustin Gold, aka the Trump guy we have here today. And hey guys, well, how y'all doing?
We are doing
Wonderful.
good. We are doing good. I hear you got some information you want to school us on.
Yeah, I've been watching. I am a diehard Halsey News. Deplorable, excuse me, you changed the name. You changed it to Deplorable News,
It's
correct?
both. No, we
Yeah.
have Deplorable TV, Deplorable Radio, and HalseyNews.com.
Okay. All right. I'm a fan of all. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like to watch the streams. And so sometimes I just yell at the monitor when I see, either one of you guys say something like, "No, that's not true." And then I go, or if you say something I like, I'll like, "Yeah, black people do talk to the TV, not talk to the monitor." And I do agree with a lot of things you guys say, but when you talk about Kanye West, the black community, Candace Owens, I just want to just throw the monitor down in against a wall, because I'm saying to myself, no, like I think the last straw for me where I like, okay, let's have a discussion, was when I watched the stream from the 15th. Dustin said, I know everybody don't like what Kanye West has done in the Oval Office and they're giving him a hard time, but it was beneficial. And then my biggest word was how. And I thought to myself, well, Tree, they don't know what you know. So let's have a dialogue about it. Let's talk about it. Let me tell them from my point of view, from not only knowing what's going on in the black community, knowing the stupid things that Kanye West says and will continue to say, but also see how it's really insulting to see how white conservatives, white right wingers, white Republicans embrace this idiot
Well,
and actually adhere to him as something, as an intellectual of the black community. Do you see what I'm talking about?
so the thing is, what you're saying is you're not a fan of the cool hip spaceship that the president should be flying around in. Well, no, this is going to be an interesting conversation because I thought of this idea 10 years ago when I was first involved with politics for what could happen as an outreach program to the black community. Today, what I see is not that program, but I've accepted it at least as something. But yeah, I know what you're saying 100%, and I'm going to let you school us on it. I'm not 100% in agreement with what Kanye did or that movement. But you're talking to different audiences on different shows, and there's some people that believe it was all some big part of a master plan and all this stuff. Who knows? I guess we'll see.
Yeah. See, Kanye likes Trump, not the mega movement, because Kanye thinks that because Trump, who is a reality TV star, who was also revered and loved by the rap community, the black community, once upon a time, I don't know if you guys know this, but black people used to worship Donald Trump back in the day. Okay.
Ice Cube talked about it during the election.
Say again, Halsey?
Ice Cube talked about it during the election.
Yeah. They put him in rap lyrics. They would put him in his videos. They would put Donald Trump in their videos. They loved this man because he represented prosperity. He represented capitalism, and that's what all of the rap community and the rap culture is all about. Making that dollar bill, the cheddar, the cheese, whatever, the coin, whatever you want to call it. Once he became the president, now he is a white supremacist. He's a racist. He's all this. It's a hypocrisy that the black community is always all about. So the fact that Kanye never wore the MAGA hat in 2016, 2017, yeah? And all of a sudden, come April of 2018, this Negro talking about something, I like the way Candace Owens think. Really? Why? Now, somebody hit me up, another black person hit me up to this, and I'm going to share this with you, and I want you to think about what was the possibilities of this going down. I'm not going to mention his name, but he said that when Kanye West first went to the Trump Towers and met with Trump, you remember that day?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
That during that time when they met, when they talked, Trump said, check it out, dude. Not now, but later on in the presidency, because I'm going to get black people off the Democratic plantation, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to send someone for you to unite with and to promote in reference to, I don't know the person yet, but we're going to get someone that we approve, we support, we like, that's going to basically, and they're going to be black, more likely a black woman, since, the black community is a matriarchy, not a patriarchy. And I'll let you know that name. And then possibly after that meeting, saying 2 years go by, because Kanye has never wore the hat. He has never campaigned on behalf of Trump. He has never said, go vote for Trump. All of a sudden, when he's about to come out with his album called Yee, that actually did so bad he had to stream it, then he was going to come out with a new line of Yeezys in May. He decided in April to wear the MAGA hat, and all hell broke loose. So that's, to me, it was a selfish move that was calculated. I don't know. What is your opinion? I don't know if that's true that, he could have met with Trump to organize this. But of course, everybody's always accusing Trump playing 4D underwater chess. I don't know. I have no idea.
Listen, it's 8D underwater lava drenched chess. And
it's actually Stormy Daniels' 4 double D chest.
Oh, let's not start with the tater jokes now, please. But I mean, in all honesty, it's tough for me because there's very little things that I think I give a shit less about than Kanye West.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to what I do care about is that the black community, if you want to even call it that, is in a conundrum, right? They're voting for a political party that basically hates them. You know what I'm saying? And keeps them in a plantation. And their major policy right now is they want to bring in more illegals, which lower the standard of living, which lower the wages, which make it impossible for people who are not already middle class to move up the ladder at all. So you have these black communities like Newark and Chicago and all that. Now, look, I'm not saying that they're all sitting there starving for jobs and they just can't wait to move up the ladder. But I'm saying that typically how you would want to move up the ladder is to start working your way up. And basically the Democratic Party tells them, well, don't worry, you don't have to work your way up because here's some gives. Just take this government cheese and this welfare and all of that. But we're going to import a whole bunch of people and give them an exorbitant amount of money just to sit here, even though they're illegal, because some of these refugees are making, like $15,000, $20,000 a month. And they have no interest in integrating. And at the same time, the black community, look, I don't think that the answer is just more money. I never have thought that.
No,
but I'm just saying that you have this conundrum because the black community is inherently voting against their best interests, but it doesn't seem like they care to listen at all that that's the case.
The other thing I want to bring up is that in 2006 to 2008, when I was heavily involved with the legal immigration battle that was going on then, when Lou Dobbs was the face of it on CNN, and Tom Tancredo was a congressman out of Colorado, and he was the politician calling for this. There was a lot of black leaders at that time. T. Willard Fair out of the Miami Urban League. There was Ted Williams. He was a homeless advocate who ran the Black Elephants. There were strong militant blacks against illegal immigration. I don't even see it this time. I see the Candace Owens, and everybody's debating all these little things. These guys were saying, kick the illegals out, deport them all so we can start getting these unskilled labor jobs back and black people could start working. We could start putting families back together, and then we're on the path to prosperity. I don't even see those kind of leaders going on in this movement right now. The other thing to your question, Trey, on Trump and did he orchestrate this Kanye thing? There's an ongoing piece I'm working on, and the thing that I think we can all agree on now is that Trump thrives in chaos. He obviously loves chaos. I'm not even 100% sure if Stormy Daniels, Michael Cohen, Omarosa, Kanye are all part of that, whether they know it or not. The thing that I haven't figured out yet, based on where we are policy-wise, is if Trump is thriving in chaos because he's defeating the deep state, or Trump is thriving in chaos because he's hoodwinking us. I'm not sure about that yet.
Okay, I'm going to address several points that Halsey and Dustin made. One, by the way, Candace Owens made a tweet stating that Donald Trump should allow all of the migrants in to be citizen, to be nationalized. I got the tweet, I got the receipts if you want to see it, because I couldn't believe she said this and white people didn't call her out, saying that as long as they admit that they were paid by George Soros, that President Trump should give them all citizenship. This is when we had 14,000 of these people coming over to the border.
Yeah, because that'll work really well, because as soon as you tell them, hey, we'll give you citizenship as long as you rat on Soros, and then 10 seconds later, a Democrat will come up to them and go, hey, we'll give you citizenship as long as you say it wasn't Soros. They'll go, yeah, it wasn't Soros.
Exactly. Exactly. So I'm saying, but anyway. Well, when you have ignorant people like this, and ignorant people like Kanye was speaking, on behalf of Black people, it makes people like me just want to just bump my head up against the wall. Now, also in reference to the Black community, voting against their best interests, right? Welcome to the Black community.
I'm part of the Jewish community. You don't have to tell me about it.
They will. Here's some sad news. Yes, the Democrats are screwing over the Black community, and they are actually replacing them for the immigrants. Okay, this is obvious, and even the Blacks have even seen it. Tariq Nasheed and a lot of pro-Blacks have actually called for their people to not vote, and they didn't. Okay, but then you had a lot of other Blacks like Al Sharpton and Marlon Brown. They got mad at Tariq and his ilk for telling their people to not vote, because they were like, listen, who you going to get in there? Trump. And then here you have 90% of the Blacks of the 11% that did vote, because out of 13% population, 11% did vote, and 90% of that 11% voted for the Democrats. So what I'm saying is that I hate to give you the bad news. Blacks will always vote Democrat to spite Trump, even if the Democrats say we're going to let the ghettos get worse. We're not even going to do anything for Black people. They will still allow this dysfunctional relationship just to spite Trump, because they feel all of a sudden Trump's a racist, Trump's a white supremacist, Trump is this, Trump is that, blah, 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 with no evidence whatsoever. You cannot expect to get any type of intellectual argument out of the Black community when you actually look at the culture, okay? And the third thing is that my thing is if we understand that the Republicans and getting Blacks to actually look at the Republicans as something decent again, it's not going to happen during Trump's presidency. It has to happen during another presidency. Maybe it would have to be a Black female Republican for Blacks to even consider this. But you can't cater with identity politics and just say Black, 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 because the Republicans are not doing anything for the Black vote, but the Democrats are.
Well, I was just going to ask you a question about that. So the Democrats are doing something by continuing to fund the FDR programs, to continue with welfare, to continue with all the shams that came out of the Civil Rights Bill under LBJ. But the question is, how do you break through with the Black community, which is, I don't even like to call it, but we'll describe it that way, when someone like Dinesh D'Souza, an Indian American immigrant, creates 4 movies. Across those movies, he explains that the Democrats were the party of the Ku Klux Klan, of slavery, of Jim Crow, of anti-civil rights, of Margaret Sanger, and those have broken through as memes. So the history of the Democrat Party. The problem that I think is going on is similar to what you just brought up. The Republicans aren't offering anything. Even Trump's message was, what do you have to lose? Which, makes sense. But if the Republican Party, which is still controlled by the Koch brother billionaires, as evidenced by this last election, with the Democrats cheating and the Koch-backed Republicans rolling over and not even challenging those races, if the Republicans don't offer an alternative and a solid message to the Black community built around, we'll teach you how to fish instead of giving you a fish, there's no positive reason for the Blacks to shift.
Exactly. Because it's like, what do you have to lose? Well, the question to that is, well, what do we have to gain? Because listen, for Black people to leave the Democratic Party and to even embrace the Republicans, conservatives, right-wingers, and Trump, either or. Okay, you're going to be alienated in your own culture. You're going to be ostracized. You are going to lose a lot to embrace the right in any form or fashion, including the president. You are going to get scrutiny within the Black community, within your Black family, within your Black friends. You're not going to be not only invited to the cookout, but you're not going to receive the calls to come over and watch the game, or to go over to watch the Hawks or whatever, basketball or football player. You are ostracized. For somebody like me who's not part of the Black community, you know what I'm saying? They took away my Black card when I pledged an oath to become a police officer. And I said, good, deuces, we're going to keep it that way. But the thing about it is that I don't want to be part of that dysfunction. Okay, it's your teased if you want to improve your language. You're actually, if you an ex-con gets a huge celebration party for coming out of jail 25 years after being convicted for murder, then a Black man who graduated at the top 10 of his class from Yale. This is a dysfunctional. You cannot bring logic into something illogical that is within the Black community. And my rebuttal to whites or any race that want to help Blacks is, okay, first of all, stop looking at them as they need help. They don't want the help. Black people have never asked anybody for help, have they?
Right.
Well, I wouldn't know if I'd go that far.
No, have they?
Yes.
Okay, challenge me. Okay, when?
So how about this? Crack comes out and starts plaguing the Black community. So the Black community comes to the government and says, we need more police. There are drugs on the streets. The drug gangs are taking over the projects. They're keeping us hostages in our own house. Please send the police. So they said they hire more police and send them in to help. Then they say, what are you doing? The police are coming in here and shooting innocent Black people for no reason. So then it's, oh, well, we got to get the police out of here. And then it's this giant round and round that people like the Democrats love, because they can always provide exactly what they're asking for without giving it any kind of nuance. You know,
but the thing that I just want to point out, and that, you know, and it's somewhere in the middle, but it's not ever a particular group like the Black community, the gay community, the trans community. Each of those quote unquote communities are actually carved out by Alinskyite organizers who come in and take advantage and then say they represent a community. And that's what's happened to the Black community over time, the gays, the trans, even the trans. It's an invented community that a paid organizer controls and pretends that they are the lobbyists for. So that's part of the problem that we see. And that's why every single solution that goes into the Black communities, into the ghettos, ends up being detrimental to the Black community, because it's not actually about freeing them. It's not about teaching them how to fish. It's not about teaching them how to become prosperous. It's about keeping them under control. And that's what I think it always is about. That's what we have to break. My stance, and I've said this so many times, is to just leave the Black community as a whole alone, and just only be accessible and help those individual minorities, regardless of the race, that want to help themselves. For example, you know, and Halsey, you probably already know this, but you know, the reason why I am really good with money is because of 2 Jewish mentors I've had. Okay, but it was white people who helped me because they saw me help myself. And they saw that I wanted to get out of the ghetto. They saw that I wanted to go and get an education. They saw that I wanted to work hard. And even after I graduated and I got into the police field with the help of a white man getting me a grant to go to the school for free, to pay for my transportation, my food, and everything. And I actually graduated the top 5 of my class in the police academy. And because I was helping myself and I wasn't, give me this, give me that. Oop, I got pregnant by Randall. Oop, I got pregnant by Ray. Oops, I got pregnant by Tyrone. You know, so I didn't do those things. I didn't get on any drugs. I didn't go to jail. I didn't get in any trouble, because I wanted to make sure I was a good asset to this country, and also they helped me because I was helping myself. And then even when I got out of policing, it was a Jewish guy who owned the series. He owned a string of porn, not porn, excuse me, strip. I know it's about the same, like strip. What do you call strip clubs? He needed a female bodyguard to protect the female strippers and the porn stars that were coming to the strip club
to actually tour for their new porn movie, whatever. And he hired me, and I got paid real well. But it's like, I did not sit on my ass and say, well, let me go ahead and get pregnant so I can get on welfare and get that government check. So my thing is, why not, instead of helping a big community, why not just be there for people like me and people? There's a lot of blacks who have the same story of whites helping them because they were looking to be helping them, but because first they were helping themselves.
Well, first off, I just want to clarify, at the beginning of that statement, you had said that there were 2 Jewish individuals who helped you manage money. Now, was that Sammy Davis Jr. and Whoopi Goldberg?
They were white.
I think when all's said and done is that what we need to stop doing in general, and this is not just to the black community, this is to all communities, is we need to stop pandering to their bullshit.
Yes.
And actually start like, you know, you hear all the time that Trump is dog whistling to white supremacists.
Yeah.
He's dog whistling to the alt-right. And, you know, that's why black people should realize that he's a complete racist and blah, 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 blah. We should explain, like, you know what? It's true. We dog whistle all the time because all of us say that we're pro-life. We're against abortion, right? 50%
I'm not against abortion. You know why? Because most of now you guys are gonna love this, but I'm not against abortions because most women who get abortions are liberals and Democrats.
You know what though, I there, but I think that's funny. But I mean, my whole thing is this: is that when I say that a life is a life, right, and that a life should be protected no matter what. 50% of all abortions take place in the black community from African American women, right? So how's that for a dog whistle? I'm actually advocating for more black births. I'm actually advocating that black women be allowed to see the sanctity of life in their own bodies and have the baby as opposed to destroying it. And I love how that's dog whistling at white supremacy. You know, like,
because I tell you why, because I know how black women think. For you as a white man to say black women have to have a baby means that you're going to make them have a baby by a man that they hate, and it's going to keep them in the system and keep them in the ghetto.
But I'm saying the same thing to white women. I'm saying the same thing to Spanish women. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that specifically just black women should have babies.
No, I get you. Yeah.
I'm just saying that the majority of policies that are preached on the right are universally true as they apply to black, Spanish, whites, whatever. And by adding the fact that, like, oh, this is for the black community, or this is for the gay community, or this is for this community, all you're doing is pandering to their nonsense and letting them know that same old is going to pay off. You know, is that all you have to do is bitch and moan and whine and complain enough. And sooner or later, me as a politician or me as an activist is going to view you as a monolith and as a bunch of people that don't care about individuals at all. So all I have to do is appeal to, you know, a percentage, because as long as I appeal to that percentage and they're loud enough and obnoxious enough, they're going to scare the shit out of the rest of them. And now I've got a whole community that I don't have to do anything for.
Exactly. So why can't Republicans, conservatives, and right-wingers just cater to Americans? I hate this identity politics so much.
Because
why not just say, let's just do it? Why?
Because they love to be in the opposition. They love to bitch. They love to be the people in Congress that have the greatest ideas if only you would give them a chance. And then the minute you give them a chance, they don't do anything.
Not a damn thing. So why do it? It's not working either.
Dustin was talking about this the other night on one of our show. If you have the Democrats who are open borders and you have the Republicans who are open borders, okay, if you're in the center, then you're for open borders. You know, so we have no real choices in this country. We have the Democrats who are horrible. We have the Republicans who are horrible. And neither one of them really ever says what they mean or does what they say.
And the other thing I just want to bring up is, in general, you know, being a political junkie and writing and doing streams and things over the last 12 years, I would say pre-Trump, the Republicans didn't really play identity politics that much compared to the Democrats.
They tried not to. That's for sure.
Well, because they weren't politically savvy and they weren't willing to play the Democrats on their own turf. It's Trump who's injected identity politics into
this is true.
You know,
But see, this is a loser game. The Democrats created that.
Oh, I believe you. I 100% agree. It's a loser game. But I'm saying it was Trump who injected this into our side.
You know why? Because Trump still thinks that he's reflecting on the nostalgia of being embraced by the Black community once upon a time. But you have to understand, listen, just like I, as a Black woman who grew up in the Black community, grew up poor, okay, got my ass tortured by my mom, okay, Black school, Black this. First time I saw white people was when we went on a field trip to Virginia. Okay, in the 4th grade. That's the first time I saw somebody white. So it's like, I know about Blackness. The thing about it is that if it's easy for them to say you're not Black no more because you're a cop, how is it that they don't understand that it's easy peasy for Black people to say you're not down with us in order you're invited to the cookout anymore because now you're the president?
Yeah, well, I think based on the left's arguments that all Blacks should identify as white and then they'll be fine.
Never happened.
Based on the alt-right, if all white people identified as Jewish, they'd all be rich and own banks.
Well, I think the most fucked up part about all of this, right, is that 99% of the time when you hear someone go the Black community, right, the words that you would associate with the Black community are welfare, poverty, crime, murder, drugs, ghetto. Like, these are all what they mean. Like when they're
and Nike shoes,
and of course, and Colin Kaepernick. But I'm saying when you're talking about the Black community, they have allowed the conversation to get to the point where if you're like, yeah, I think poverty sucks, they're like, yeah, that's because you hate Black people, and I'm like, well, huh? Where does that come from? Well, because there's a great deal of Blacks in poverty, and you obviously don't like poverty, then you don't like Black people. Well, I would like to make the country better for Black people. Oh, really? Well, what are you going to do for them? Nothing. Well, what do you mean nothing? Well, I don't have any intention of like just giving them shit. Like I'm going to make the economy better so there's some jobs for them. And I'm pretty tough on crime, so I'm going to make sure the drug dealers don't control their neighborhoods. Oh, yeah, but what are you going to do for them? And when the answer is basically nothing, like then all of a sudden it's, see, you don't like Black people because you're not going to do shit for them.
Right. And
well, you know what? It shouldn't be that there's an expectation that the only way that you show people you care about them is by doing shit for them.
Right.
And show people you care about them is leave them the fuck alone.
Well, exactly. And the best policies to help the Black community as well as, poor white communities change is to create a booming economy where there's more jobs. You can possibly create some work programs and then you get rid of welfare, Section 8, food stamps, and all this stuff that has kept people in poverty. Because if you're going to keep paying people $300 a month per kid they have to not get married, well, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to take the easy way out, which is not good. And now we're 3, 4, 5 generations into this, and it's a total mess. But that's the only way you can help them is by getting rid of the freebies. Now, you obviously can't do that overnight because we basically have to reverse engineer, deconstruct what the damage that has been done and reverse those programs slowly. But if you can begin to create jobs and then slowly wean people off of welfare and then get rid of these policies that encourage them not to get married, you can start bringing families back together. That's the biggest problem that we have.
I think also that's a very good point you brought up, Dustin. Hold on, before I get on that point, I want to say, Halsey, here's a question. Why not just say, I'm not going to do nothing to help Black people because there's help for them. They can't do nothing that I as a white man can't do, and just leave it at that. Because that whole thing of why you got to specifically help Black people because they Black.
Because the natural comeback to that is, oh, there's enough help out there for Blacks, right? And then they say, yeah, have you ever tried living on welfare? Well, no. Well, welfare is $187 a week. Okay. Well, try living on $187 a week. No, thank you. Yeah, because you obviously don't understand the Black community. So you talking about wanting to just, there's already help out there and stuff, is just showing how little you care because you want to give corporate welfare and you want to do this and you want to make things better for the military. My opinion is this. I guarantee you that if you said to the Black community, not the poor community, not whatever, I will do this deal with you. Okay? All you have to do is show me that you have a job for 6 months and I'll give you a house. Not in some shitbag community, in a decent community. You can have a house, you can get started, decent schools for your kids, all of that stuff. They would claim that that's not enough, or they would say, oh, that sounds great. And in 6 months, if they don't have the job, would still expect the house.
Exactly. Well, in 1964, Ronald Reagan gave a speech at Barry Goldwater's Republican committee when he was running, and Reagan brought up this statistic. It was like, back then, we were spending $1 billion a year on poverty, and then the poverty rate was whatever 30%. Now all of a sudden we're spending $2 billion. 3 years later, the poverty rate has increased, and it's the same thing that's going on today. Just like Halsey said, and I was going to bring up, if you said, look, hey, we're already in all this debt, we'll take out a loan for $1 trillion, divide it up, and give it to every black person in the country as their reparation payment. You're going to get $250,000 each. So let me ask you, liberals, Democrats, everyone who wants to take care of them and think money's the solution, freebies the solution. You're telling me if we do this one-time payment of $250,000, that within 10 years when we measure this, every black person will be out of poverty and they'll all be prosperous.
Hell no.
Exactly.
If you look at any single program.
But I'm saying that disproves it all. So throwing money at the problem does nothing.
You always hear about how, more money would solve the problem. But if you look at the most expensive school districts in the entire country, they're all inner city school districts. Every last one of them is spending more per pupil than any of the rich white areas could even come close to spending. Why? It goes in one door and goes out the other. There's horrible corruption. The Democrats are in control of all these areas, so they just take the money and funnel it to the teachers' unions so that the actual schools get nothing. And then if you try to say, hey, I have a great idea. Why don't we just tell black people, or inner city people, that you can go to whatever school you want. If you find a school that's better for you, you think will be better for you and your family, we'll give you a voucher, you go over there and do that. And then all of a sudden the Democrats hit the fucking roof. They're like, no, you can't, because now you're showing less support for our schools. But you're saying your schools suck.
Exactly. Well, that 100%. And they're spending, say in the suburbs, they're spending $8, $9 a head per student. And in the inner cities, they're spending twice that amount of money, sometimes 3 times. Well, why? White, liberal, progressive, freaking slave masters are running the school system, and they go out and they hire these transgender weirdo teachers that teach that science that a boy can convert to a girl. And then you ask why your kids are stupid and the test scores are horrible.
Well, that's in the white schools. I have to admit, that doesn't fly in the black schools, because the thing about homophobia is still alive and well in the black community. So the trans thing is not going well in the black.
No. But they're teaching. It doesn't matter. Common Core has all this stuff inside that education, so they're teaching it in the public indoctrination centers, regardless. But what I'm saying is that you go into. I just moved out of Nashville last year into a suburb conservative town that voted 72% for Trump. That's awesome. Yeah, they still have to use pieces of Common Core under Tennessee law, but the fact is the parents are involved with the schools. And if you are in Nashville, you can send your kid to any school, charters, magnets, or whatever. But you go to all those schools, it's all hardcore liberals. They let the teachers proselytize. They let them to call Trump Hitler and things like that. They hand out these social justice warrior projects. That's in Nashville. You come 30 minutes outside into the suburb in Sumner County, and the parents are involved and the teachers don't do that shit. So that just proves why. Because out here, conservatives are running the school system.
Here's a question. Have you ever had a friend, male or female, that was in a relationship? Let me finish. Have you ever had a friend, male or female, that was in a relationship where the spouse was cheating or mistreating them, and you basically talked to them and said, listen, you deserve better than this, and they would never leave?
No, they always kill the messenger.
Yeah.
I mean, why not just look at black folks that way, or even any? We're gonna say black. We're just gonna say black because that's what we're talking about here in reference, because that's the whole Kanye thing about this here. The food stamp. Because let me explain. To get back on your point, Dustin. Guess what? Food stamps and welfare has gone down because of the job has increased. But do you think black people are going to give that credit to Trump? No, they try to give it to Obama. I've heard so many of them say, well, no. That Obama did that, but Trump is taking credit for it. That's what that is.
Yeah, but when they're giving the credit to Obama, they're giving it to the black half or the white half? I'm not sure.
The black half, of course.
But I'm saying, like, I know a teacher, right? I know a teacher who teaches in an inner city, right? And they have one of the best vocational schools in the country in terms of teaching people to be plumbers, welders, all these great paying jobs when you get out of high school, right?
Yeah.
And if they sit down with a special ed black kid who can barely read and say, you're a junior, you're going to graduate in 2 years, because obviously we can't ever give you an F because that's racist. So you're going to be graduating in 2 years. Where do you see yourself? Like, what do you want to be doing? And and basically they're like, well, I think I want to go to Notre Dame. And they're like, well, considering it costs $60,000 a year to go there and you have to have awesome grades and you can't read, like maybe Notre Dame is too far off. And she'll get pulled out of the room and said, if you say any more racist shit like that, you'll get written up. And if she says, I have a great idea, why don't you go to our vocational school and learn how to be a plumber? I know plumbers that make more than doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'll say, why don't you do that? And they'll say, how dare you tell this kid that he's not ready for college? And like, how does that person not look back and go, how about this? I don't care if they're ready for college because they have no plan on college. What are they going to do? Go study gender studies at college, get a 4-year degree and come out and be just as useless as if they never went to college? Like, there has to be a point where you're able to say to people very plainly that, listen, the way that you're going is ridiculous. And if you want to just be a poor, blight on society, then fine, do what you're going to do. But what I would be doing a disservice to you to do is to lie to you and tell you that this is going to work out well. That you with horrible grades and a very low scholastic achievement, you're going to go to a good college and get a good degree and all of that. You're not going to. But there are thousands of jobs out there where you'll make money, more money than 80% of the people that do go to college. And you can start at 18 as opposed to 22.
Yeah, back when I was in high school, a lot of the bad kids, the ADD, ADHD kids, got pushed off and forced into this tech school. And most of them that I know came out of there. The girls were hairdressers, or they were working towards their nursing degree. The guys were becoming mechanics. Most of those kids I run into when I'm back where I was born, I swear those kids are all have homes. They're making good money. The plumbers are moonlighting, working full time during the day, and they were all the troubled kids who walked away making $100,000 a year with no college loan. So.
Vocational schools I hate that they have killed a lot of the vocational schools. But also, let me ask both of you, what percentage do you think of the United States population can handle the straight truth with no chaser?
On what subject?
on just basically their abilities, their opportunities, reality. I mean, just like the example where you said someone who is in a special ed class and he want to go to Notre Dame. I mean, get real. Seriously, what makes you think you can be capable of doing that? But then that person is pulled aside and say, no. Don't hurt their feelings. We'll fire you for that. And then my thing is that we have gotten to the snowflake culture where a lot of people can't handle the truth about themselves, let alone about everybody else. When any race, white, black, Asian, doesn't matter what race they are, when they can't even handle the truth about themselves, you can't tell them how they are inadequate, but how they can be adequate, how they can improve themselves. When they can't handle constructive criticism, they're not going to let you do it to other people.
Well, you go a step further because, like, you tell these kids, okay, well, you have to go to college because, after all, only good kids go to college, and it's the only way you're going to ever make any money. So you lower the bar on what it takes for him to get into college. You get him into college, he majors in some crappy degree that he's never ever going to use when he gets out of college, right? And then he gets out of college and he goes to apply for a job, and the first thing the boss thinks when he looks at this gender studies degree from a kid who, you know what I'm saying, like basically got a C average through the whole thing, is he thinks to himself, this guy is a walking lawsuit. The minute I hire him and say no to him on anything, he's going to claim I'm a racist and sue the shit out of me, and he'll win because everybody's afraid of offending everybody these days. I would just rather not do it.
Wouldn't it be the parents' fault to allow their kids to go through such a college program?
Yeah, it is the parents' fault.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can blame the parents in this situation.
Oh, yeah, we can.
The only reason being is that we have now created a scenario where the Black community has like a 70% rate of single motherhood. Like, I mean,
how is that still not blaming the parents?
What I'm saying is that if I were the Black community, instead of burning down the ghetto because, somebody got shot for like pulling a gun on a cop, I would be burning down the ghetto and saying, what are you doing to us?
Well, I mean, the other side of it, on the education side, the reason why the colleges all agreed to lower the standards, which was ridiculous was because when the federal government, again, Big Mama getting involved, decided to back college loans, all of a sudden these colleges are charging $50,000 or $60,000 a year, of which they know the student is never going to be able to pay back. But as long as the taxpayer is backing the loan, then the colleges do it. And then they turn their colleges into resorts. Who's got the biggest pools? Who's got the coolest nightclubs? And then they become resorts. They're not even there to learn. I had this conversation with my older kid a few years ago when he was in 8th grade. He wanted to be a marine biologist and he wanted to work at an aquarium. That was his dream. So I made him do this whole project in a spreadsheet. We looked at what it was going to cost to end up with a PhD in marine biology. And then we called around to all of these different big aquariums. And the marine biologists were making in the range of $35,000 to $40,000 a year. Then I showed him how much a house costs and how much a loan was going to cost. And my 8th grader goes, "Holy crap, I'm not going to be a marine biologist. It's a waste of money." And like,
that's an excellent example. What you just said is mind blowing me. And Halsey, how you just hear what Dustin did with his son? You do the same thing. So how come it's not the parents' fault? And what's so embarrassing about this for me is that Black parents, on an overwhelming majority, don't sit down and do that with their kids.
I don't. Well, the problem is, it's not like, I mean, my father raised me a certain way and I picked up a lot of this from him, but I don't know. I mean, I think once we've gone 3, 4, 5 generations, it was even Rush Limbaugh the other day, who I haven't listened to in years, but I saw a monologue that he gave that was really good. And he said, just in general, not on the Black community, but 2 to 3 generations in our public schools of teaching kids to hate America, not teaching them about the Constitution and the founding, just to hate America. How the hell do we dig ourselves out of this? Because you have 3 generations now that were taught to hate this country.
Isn't it the parents' responsibility to have a sit down, especially when we stop eating dinner together? Once upon a time, we used to have supper together, and the parents would find out what's going on in their child's lives as far as socially and educationally in the school system. And isn't it the parents' responsibility to know what's being taught to their kids? If you're being taught that there's more than 2 genders, you should know that. But if you don't keep in contact with your kids and understand and look at their actual work, read the books that they're actually given, and listen to them tell you what the teachers told you that day, it's still your responsibility as a parent to know what's going on in your child's life. So if you are a patriot, a nationalist, and then you have a libtard teacher that's teaching you that, no, we have to embrace globalism. You as a parent should know that this is what's being taught to your kid. Do something to stop it. If that's not the case, then you need to take your child out of that school.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
My wife and I have been doing it for years, even when we were in Nashville. Any projects that the kids would bring home that had to do with social justice, I would sit there and explain to them, that transgenders are mentally ill people that want to cut their dicks off. And then I would go down to the school, ream out the teacher with them there, and I would tell her, and I would tell them, hey, you just do the project the way you need to do it to get it done. But you, the teacher, you must understand I hate you and I know what you're doing. So, that's how we always have handled it this whole time. I mean, in this school system, it's a little different. But I also make them watch history documentaries and read books like that and teach them everything about politics, because I know if we fail right now, if Trump fails, they're going to have to live in a country with Islamic Sharia law in certain places, with trannies running around, with the patients running the asylum. So parents have to be doing this anyway, just to prep your kid for the world they're going to live in. It's a sad situation.
Yeah.
Halsey sold off all his kids, so.
I think we're also living in a time where, and this is a huge problem in the Black community, is that the adults, the parents, like you said, that should be having these conversations with the kids, have been told that everything that's happening to them is a result of systemic racism.
Yep.
Yeah.
That they can't get ahead because the entire world is racist. So the kid is starting out thinking, well, unless I'm, someone that has a 150 IQ and all of this shit, like, I'm never going to make it anywhere anyway, because all of these people are systemically racist and that's the way that they look at me, and I'm never going to get shit. Right?
I know, and they're being taught this and they believe this. in a city they grow up in with a white progressive liberal mayor, a white progressive liberal city council with, and I want to ask you this, Tree, how do we get to the point when we can, as constitutionalists, as conservatives, how do we get to the point in this country when we can finally reverse the fact that Ben Carson and Clarence Thomas and Herman Cain and Sheriff David Clark and people like that are not the Uncle Toms, that the Uncle Toms are actually the Al Sharptons and the Jesse Jacksons? How do we get to that point? Well, no, because I mean they're the ones who work lockstep with the white progressive slave masters. How do you rebrand that?
You have to understand, victim culture is such a is so wildly out of control that in order to get rid of those real Uncle Toms that are embracing victim culture, especially with black people, it's going to be mission impossible. As far as I can see it, because it's easy to say, oh, I can't because I'm black. Oh, I can't because I'm a woman. Oh, I can't because I'm whatever you want to put afterwards. Okay. It's easy to be a didn't do than a did do. Okay.
Well, and then, and the funny thing is you take Margaret Sanger, who founded Planned Parenthood, and if you read her writings, she definitely
I know all about that heifer.
Right. So Margaret Sanger, who actually admitted that she was reaching out to black priests in the community to sell this whole thing and push abortions, but she couldn't really tell them what she was going to do because she was tricking them. And you look at what goes on today, it's just the same system. So the white progressive liberal slave masters that run the cities, and then they have their house Negroes out there that are actually selling out their people, but yet they believe somebody like Ben Carson, who grew up in the ghetto, raised by his grandmother, becomes a neurosurgeon and ends up working in the Trump administration. He's the Uncle Tom. He's the house Negro. I mean, how do you revert? Do you think you can ever reverse that? Or the branding is so deep set?
This is going to blow your mind. But I do believe that I'm not spooky or I don't believe in all of this stuff about curses and blessings and this and the other, but this is what I do believe. I do believe that the words put out by Lyndon Johnson about I'll have them niggas voting Democrat for 200 years. Yeah. I believe that has to come into fruition. And then after 200 years, then there's a possibility for awakening. And here's the best part about this. It will be with a third party. I don't believe that we will still be going by a two-party system. If you notice that the independents and the libertarians are growing bigger and bigger every election cycle, I do believe in my heart and soul that in the future that there will not be a two-party system to be dealing with. We will be dealing with a third-party system, and that third-party system will be the system that will actually be the new home for blacks. It will not be the Republicans. Never have, never will. I mean, excuse me, it has, but it won't. It has, and they've been there, done that. Same thing with the Democrats. Been there, done that. Now they need to go to a new party system that is going to do right by them after they have realized, constantly being educated from generation to generation about what's going on and the whole war on drugs, war on poverty bullshit. Yeah. The 3 strikes you're out system has been actually detrimental to black people.
Well, I think part of what you're saying there, and I brought some of this up on Halsey's show in different pieces, but part of it is, as someone who would let's say we identified as conservatives or constitutionalists or libertarians, 10 years ago, the school of thought in conservative politics was that either we had to start a third party or we had to take back the Republican Party. It was Donald Trump who obviously made the choice, at least on the platform that he ran on in 2016, to take back the Republican Party. I think what you're starting to see now, the Democratic Republican Party was founded by Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. And they actually eventually split into the Democrats and the Republicans. And now what we're seeing, because Trump has lifted the veil on the big money guys behind the Republican Party, like the Koch brothers, who are now a 100% open borders and endless immigration. They came out and said it 6 weeks ago, is that slowly you're starting to see through the midterms where the Democrats cheated, there was clear voter fraud, but the Koch-backed Republicans rolled over and they gave away their seats, is that the Democrats and the Republicans are coming back together and they will form the Democratic Republican Party. It will be a uniparty. The question is, will the first big independent or new third party be a party that Donald Trump starts?
Oh,
Or will
wow.
he merge in with the Democratic Republican Party?
Oh, wow. I like that. I have to think about that because
I'll tell you that.
wow, because I went independent recently. I left the Republican Party, and a lot of blacks and a lot of people individually of all races have gone independent because they're tired of both sides. That is a fascinating and actually an exciting statement that you made,
and Halsey brought this back up a little earlier. What you have to look at, so let's say with Donald Trump, if you look at his record over 35 years, in a lot of interviews, he had always said, and this was at different times throughout our country, where he said the Republican, the far right of the Republican Party was too extreme, the far left of the Democrat Party was too extreme. I would govern from the middle. I think I'd be a moderate. He said that over 35 years. The problem that we have today, and as the veil's been lifted more, and Halsey brought it up, is that the Republicans just take an issue like immigration. The Republicans are open borders in general from the party leadership, open borders and 100% unlimited immigration. And so
you mean Democrats?
No. Both are. Because the Republicans, backed by the Koch money, are open borders.
I'm sorry.
The Democrats,
yes.
The Democrats are open borders. So if Donald Trump is governing the country, so if Donald Trump is governing the country based on what he said over 35 years from the middle, what is the middle between open borders and open borders? It's open borders. And that goes for all of these other. Look, the Republicans will give lip service all day long to ending abortions and ending Planned Parenthood. On the moment during the Kavanaugh hearings at the final end, when Jeff Flake threw his tantrum and he was saying that he wanted an FBI investigation or you wouldn't get his vote. At that very moment, Donald Trump, behind the scenes, was signing an $865 billion spending bill. It was barely reported on by the press. You never see the press not report on a huge spending bill. And that spending bill included $0 not only for the wall, but $0 for the Department of Homeland Security, of which he's supposedly negotiating for December 7th now. But it also included full Planned Parenthood funding. So while the Republicans controlled the presidency, the Senate, and the House, they funded Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
For the third time in a row.
Oh, wow, that is so true.
So they are the same party.
They are. Gosh, man.
Remember this. Republicans were against socialized medicine. Barack Obama used Mitt Romney, a Republican's plan from Massachusetts.
Yeah, I do know this part. Yeah.
The Republicans ran for years. They passed 41 bills out of the House and sent them to the Senate knowing they would never be signed to repeal Obamacare. Donald Trump gets in. 70 days in, he hammers it down. He pushes it to the floor. He supports any bill possible that will start to dismantle Obamacare. He didn't care.
Nope.
And John McCain broke it, a guy who campaigned for years on ending Obamacare. So there you go. The Republicans and the Democrats are the same party. That's why you can't shift the quote-unquote black community or anyone else really over to the Republicans in a big way, because they don't stand for anything different when it comes to actually setting policy and passing legislation.
Yeah, this is so true.
But you will get a 0.5% tax break credit on your other credit. Trust me on that. We will pass corporate tax cuts, which helps get the economy moving, but the savings won't be passed on to the consumer who actually pays those taxes anyway.
Yeah. So that's excellent. Well, I can't wait to rewatch this and just ponder that thought, because that sounds exciting. I don't know if it's going to happen during our lifetime, but it would be great if it does, because I look forward to a third party. And don't get me wrong, I'm very, very hard on my own people. Seriously. No, I'm so no nonsense with them. But I too I'm really tired of the culture that they embrace and the mentality they embrace that puts them in this situation. And I would love for them to go into a third party that will actually get them to do, instead of giving them the fish, teaching them how to fish, as Halsey has said it earlier. Now, I want to definitely go ahead. I'm going to have you.
I was going to say, I just wanted to circle back real quick, because it was talking about in the beginning how you were saying, just leave black people alone. And the thing is, I think it's true. What I got out of this is I think stop looking at them as saving the black community.
Yes.
Because that's like saying saving the white community. I
Yeah.
identify as white. I'm not out there to save the white community. In
Yeah.
fact, I hate most white people. Why? Not because of their privilege, but because of their progressivism. So I'm actually not a fan of whites in general. And I wanted to ask you one other thing as we're talking about Candace and Kanye and sort of their opportunism. What do you think of Diamond and Silk, of Terrence Williams, of a lot of these blacks that kind of sprung out of the MAGA movement that, to me, honestly, as someone who's political savvy, in the very beginning of this, when I saw these people come out, I actually thought it was a liberal trap.
They're
that
not
it was
the
going to be
same.
that it was
They're
going to be. But I always thought it was going to be all these white people were getting in the trap of watching these kind of, I hate to say, like buck shining blacks eating fried chicken.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they were going, George Soros funded this. You stupid, you stupid white racist. You tuned into a black guy eating fried chicken and you think you guys are racist. I figured it was a trap. What do you think of those people?
No. I actually, I don't even put, they're not even the same category. Kanye and Candace versus Terrence Williams and Diamond and Silk. Let me just say Diamond and Silk first and then Terrence. Diamond and Silk were on the Trump train before I even got on it. When Trump came down that escalator, Diamond and Silk made a video on like they supported him, and they got a lot of shit from the black community. Now, believe it or not, Diamond and Silk used to support Black Lives Matter. They were libtards, okay? And then when they said, you know what, I'm gonna give Donald a chance, and I was just like, I did not take Donald Trump seriously, and I've always been a fan of his. Okay, I used to go to a lot of his entrepreneurial seminar, especially when it came down to Georgia. But as they begin to get, they're sincere. To put it this way, they're not opportunists. They're sincere. Terrence Williams is also sincere. He's as funny as hell. And black folks love chicken. I don't know why we get upset when white people make the fried chicken and watermelon joke. It's true. Did you know that there's a restaurant called Fried Chicken and Watermelon? You know,
I'm actually friends with Terrence. I just wanted to bring it up to get your thoughts on the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. I have no bad words for him. The thing about it is he's funny, and you have to understand, black people were good in entertainment. We're also good in athleticism too.
But I want to ask you: do you think Terrence and Diamond and Silk are reaching people in the black community, or only further entertaining the white man?
They're entertaining white people.
Okay, that's kind of the point I was making. I don't see it now. Terrence was at that the black leaders meeting where they went over to Donald Trump with Candace. Like, he was super excited because he is a Trump supporter and everything. But and he's got a whole backstory and grew up in foster care that all ties into with what he's trying to do. Yeah. But the whole thing with the fried chicken is ridiculous. That all came from when a lot of blacks moved up from the South to the Northeast during World War II, and a lot of the guys were overseas and they needed factory workers. So a lot of blacks moved up to the Northeast and they brought fried chicken and watermelon stuff from the South with them, and had nothing to do with the black culture. And then the people in the Northeast started making jokes about blacks and fried chicken because it was mainly blacks eating fried chicken, because in the North people weren't doing fried chicken, fried fish out in their yards the way that it took place down in the South.
It's okay. I don't see it as a bad stereotype. You know what I'm saying? Listen, I eat a plant-based diet, and I have to stay away from fried chicken because if I eat it, I'll never stop eating it. It happened to me once. It did happen to me once. I had stopped eating. I stopped eating meat, and then all of a sudden I came to meat, and then all of a sudden I ate chicken, and I went crazy with it, gained about 80 pounds, and then I went back to plant-based, and I said, you know what, I'm not going to eat it anymore ever again.
Look at Colonel Sanders. He was a white business owner who identified as a poor black chicken eater. So at the end of the day.
All right, we're running down to about 2 more minutes. I want to end on time. I told you guys earlier, I'm like the rare black person y'all see start on time, end on time. So, and I know you guys got your own show starting off at 9 o'clock. What are you talking about today?
Who knows?
Oh, today we'll be talking about Tom Steyer mostly, but we're doing an AMA. We're letting the audience decide what we talk about. So,
and you guys are such a good. Are such a good balance with each. Seriously, this is a good. I'm kind of envious because it's rare for. I don't even think I can find anybody that has a good balance to my personality. But with you two have a good balance with each other. It's like
I think tonight we're going to talk about Pat Little. He's a white.
I know all about that crazy.
Yeah, he's a white supremacist neo-Nazi who's out to save the Muslim community.
He's crazy though. Y'all don't notice it. That Patrick Little is mentally deranged.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying it's gonna be funny. I'm like, he is really mentally deranged when you look at him and his twitches. I'm like, this guy is certifiable crazy.
Well, of course, he's hanging out with Tom Steyer over at Starbucks, planning to kill all the Jews. I mean, what do you think he's doing? He just sold his boat that he was living on to buy.
Oh, so he's not living on that anymore?
Yeah, he traded it in to buy 13 pizza ovens. I mean, this stuff's getting crazy. Right?
Oh, Trey, you know what I forgot to tell you?
What?
David Duke said on JF that he'll only debate me if I promise not to attack his character.
Oh, give me a fucking break. Wah!
Yep.
Wah!
That's exactly what I'm
saying. He don't want to debate you because he know he can get his ass handed to him.
Oh, for sure.
Again.
I know.
I mean,
it's
bad enough he got his ass whipped by a black woman. He definitely don't want to get his ass whipped by no Jew.
You can't attack his character, his Botox, or his boob job. So.
Or his 6 months PhD degree. Yeah, okay. All right, guys. So go ahead and tell everybody. Like Halsey, you haven't. You're going to be starting your channel and broadcasting another 30 minutes. So tell everybody your information, and then Dustin, you can do the same, and then we'll go ahead and log off.
You can find me at halseynews.com. You can email me at info@halseynews.com. You can find me on Twitter at @RealHalseyNews. You can find me on Facebook at Halsey News Network. We will be broadcasting from the Halsey News Network channel in 30 minutes. We're going to be taking questions from the audience. I know we didn't address it, but just to make my position known on Candace Owens, she sucks. So, okay.
She sucks a big cock.
Yep.
That's what
you too, Dustin.
Surprisingly, that's what Kanye said about her as well. So. But you can find me. Actually, we're going to be launching this soon, but you can go to deplorabletv.com. Sign up for email updates on there. We're going to be launching soon. Hopefully, maybe Tree, one day you'll want to join us and do a show out of Deplorable TV. You can email me at dustin@halseynews.com or find me on Twitter at deplorabledgold.
All right, guys. So maybe we'll have another one like these in the future, and be sure to check these guys out in another 29 minutes. Later, taters.
Have a good night.